Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two. I'd like a medium, a grande. Could you do like a decaf iced coffee? It has to be decaf Americano. Okay, so that's cool. So a decaf Americano with a lot of whatever non-dairy milk you have, like coconut milk. Wait, that makes it a latte? Okay, so fine, a latte, and yes, sorry, not hot, iced. Hi, I'd like a grande decaf Americano iced and with a lot of almond milk or coconut milk, whichever one has less sugar. Oh, the coconut milk? Okay, coconut milk. And not too much ice, please. Thanks. I'd like an iced decaf coconut milk latte, light ice. Whew, y'all. So that is my usual go-to Starbucks order. Or should I say, it was. As a Cajun kid, it was a prerequisite. I cannot say that word. As a Cajun kid, it was a prerequisite that I come out of the womb drinking coffee milk. I never really was like a fan of milk, like milk. I didn't like it, but spike it with a bit of Momo's community coffee at 3 p.m. when Momo, Leona, and Poppy Earl were doing their coffee break, and I was getting my dairy and caffeine, having my little cafe au lait, and I was lit, y'all. Then my coffee journey continued when I was in my teens. My dad said to me one day, I don't know about giving you an allowance, but I do know that you have to work to earn a living, so come work at my office. And I loved to visit his little break area where there was a coffee maker always stocked with fresh community coffee. And I would add that also community coffee brand powdered creamer, and sweet and low, like every hour or so. I probably had like 6 cups of coffee a day at my dad's office. I was bouncing off the walls. But for some reason, I was still able to sleep at night, maybe because I was working and yet had no real bills to pay. Then, in my later teens, a fancy bookstore came to town called Barnes & Noble. It came to Baton Rouge like the circus coming to town, but a more educated, permanent circus that was double-decker, complete with an escalator, and an area that had a coffee shop boasting that they sold Starbucks coffee from Seattle. And Frappuccinos became my best friend and the best friend of my best friends, too, when we would drive over to City Place, which had the Barnes & Noble in Baton Rouge. And then in college, I don't know how I did this. I would smoke a cigarette, have a coffee, and then go stomp in Suzuki class for an hour and a half or do African dance. And again, I do not know how I did that. I do not know how my lungs, my heart got me through. And then, y'all, after college, coffee was my saving grace and kind of like my only hope in the morning. Right after college, I was temping at various jobs, and I'd get dollar coffee at the tin cart at that comes on wheels, at various places. The coffee doesn't come on wheels. The tin cart is on wheels. If the coffee was on wheels, it'd be more than $1. Those are all over the place in New York City, and the coffee was always strong and good. And usually in one of those little cups, if it was hot, like the kind of quintessential Greek kind of cup, or I would more so prefer to get it iced, and it always was served by a flirtatious man of Middle Eastern descent. And then when I started becoming more of a health nut, I did this random gluten-free, sugar-free, vegan cleanse. So basically you couldn't eat anything or drink anything. But I did learn I could kind of cheat that system by getting decaf coffee with almond milk, unsweetened, from Whole Foods. I had to go to Whole Foods to get this. This was my treat, but my treat tasted a little kind of yuck, but I still fiend for it. My body started learning to like decaf coffee with unsweetened almond milk. And the whole point of this cleanse was to cleanse yourself of any cravings. But bullshit, y'all. This cleanse actually made my addiction for coffee even worse, if it could get even worse. Because, y'all, while they say coffee is good for you, I have learned over the years, especially recent, that for me, coffee's like the bad boy, the boy you shouldn't date, but you keep going back to over and over again because he is just so bad. And that is so good. But okay, they do say there are many benefits of coffee. All right, so let's go over those. I quote a mishmash of like a Google search, including articles from Healthline, which is one of my go-tos, Healthline, and Johns Hopkins University. Okay, so we have heard that research suggests that coffee itself might have beneficial effects on inflammation due to its plant compounds and polyphenol content. Okay, it's high in antioxidants and therefore linked to a lower risk of disease. Interesting. Coffee also boosts energy levels, may be linked to a lower risk of type 2 diabetes, could support brain health, may promote weight management. Ooh, people love that. People jump on that. I'm being facetious if you can't read between the lines on that part. Coffee's linked to a lower risk of depression. Coffee could protect against liver conditions, supports heart health. Coffee could increase longevity. Coffee could reduce the risk of Parkinson's. And if you're me, the Café du Monde tin coffee cans are great holders of random kitchen items. And they're super cute and they just remind me of home, you know. Furthermore, according to the dietary guidelines for Americans, it's safe for most women to drink 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day. What? How is that possible, y'all? 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day. Who out here is doing that? Yikes. Because I am learning over the past 4 or 5 years, especially, that even 1 cup of caffeinated coffee for me is, to put it simply, the devil. And y'all remember Bobby Boucher's mom from The Water Boy? Yes, The Water Boy, where they did them Cajun accents like that. They got them almost somewhat accurate and almost totally inaccurate at the same time. But coffee is the devil, as Kathy Bates' character would say. So y'all, at the height of the pandemic, I knew I needed to give up some things and ration. We all, I think, started rationing and rethinking things, right, in March 2020. So I stopped eating red meat, like, completely. I wasn't a big red meat eater, but I just stopped it completely. As y'all know, my mom and I are very much diehard fans of beans. So again, giving up red meat wasn't too hard, but I also decided I should wean myself off of coffee because I thought, like, you know, the pandemic was, we had to ration like World War II styles, and it just felt right. It just felt appropriate. So many people were giving up so much. The least I could do was give up coffee. And shortly after I gave up coffee in March 2020, I noticed that my overactive bladder situation, which had been escalating, it was almost like nearly debilitating. I had to pee every like 30 minutes. It got better, like a lot better, like night and day better. Because y'all, coffee acidity is one of the known triggers to make overactive bladder, or OAB, as us girls with OAB like to call it. So I couldn't seem to shake wanting a coffee once the pandemic situation got a little bit safer. Y'all remember when things started getting a little less safer? It was like a little less life or death and more like, oh, life without coffee was life and death again, right? Y'all remember that? And you may wonder, like, what is the deal with Brooke and coffee? I have a whole podcast episode about it. So for me, I think coffee's like, it's one of my crutches. It's one of my crutches. I have really worked to eliminate sugar. I've completely cut out cigarettes. So coffee's kind of like my alternative, my little habit, my little fix. My mom does Diet Coke. I do coffee. It actually kind of helps me from craving sugar, or at least I tell myself. I don't add any sweetener to my coffee at all. I don't even add stevia to it. I'm very careful what I put into my coffee. I make sure that it's dairy free and sugar free, and that is not an easy feat when you get coffee on the outside, even at Starbucks, right? Unless you go to this fabulous gas station called Quick Check that my boyfriend Harry and I love. And it's become like Harry and our thing, that anytime we're like, let's take a ride out into nature, especially the beach, we have to find a Quick Check, even if it's out of the way, and stop at it, because lo and behold, Quick Check has decaf iced coffee. You don't even have to have them do like a decaf iced Americano like Starbucks does. And Quick Check has unsweetened almond milk. So at Quick Check, they have a plethora of different coffees. For iced coffee, they have decaf coffee. They usually have, like right now, they have Kris Kringle or some sort of seasonal iced coffee flavor and regular iced coffee. Sometimes if I'm feeling crazy, I'll do mostly iced decaf with a splash of like the seasonal coffee, and then a ton of unsweetened almond milk, because they have this whole like tray of all the different kinds of milks you can have. And usually I have to go bust into like the refrigerator to go bust open a new unsweetened almond milk, because clearly not many people are going to Quick Check for that in their coffee. And Quick Check even has the chewy ice, which, as y'all know, if you're really into ice like I am, it's like those small like hospital style ice cubes. And so Harry, as far as his coffee, if y'all want to know, Harry gets hazelnut hot coffee, even in like the dead of summer, with hazelnut creamer and 2 sugars, despite me telling him to switch to stevia. But he has switched to stevia like a good old Mr. Haley. But I can't even touch it. I mean, Harry is like the unknown character from Candyland. His name is Hazelnut Harry, or Hazelnut Harry, as I like to say. He's right next to Lord Licorice up on that Candyland board. So, y'all, I did this thing where I convinced myself that with my overactive bladder, after much research, it was hot and caffeinated coffee that triggered my OAB, not iced decaf coffee, right? No, that's like the sinner, like the sinner and the saint. You know, that's actually one of my friend Jen Cintron. That's one of her albums. Y'all should check it out, Sinner and Saint. Anyways, so Quick Check, not Wawa. Most everyone in the Northeast corridor has heard of Wawa. I think Wawa is like the mecca of gas stations up here, while I'm learning back home. Well, in Texas, we're getting one in Louisiana. Buc-ee's is the mecca of gas stations. Back in the day, we used to have Stuckey's. Do y'all remember that? But for me and Harry, or Harry and I, shall I say, Quick Check is our mecca, because it's the only place on the road that has decaf iced coffee. And because my iced decaf latte habit at Starbucks has become way too expensive, Quick Check is a great alternative, and I can do more quality control on my own. And honestly, I don't think the non-dairy milk at Starbucks is sugar-free. And like at home, I started making my own concoction of half decaf espresso, half chicory. So I do like 3 scoops of each, into like a French press cold brew. And it does taste good, y'all, I promise. And I make it strong, but it's just more fun to get coffee when you're out. Like, who's with me on that? It's like a thing. Clearly, there are millions of people spending billions of dollars on the coffee industry getting coffee out. So there's other people out there who relate with me. And I've noticed, unless you're at Quick Check or some Starbucks, it's really hard to quality control or even find a good plastic cup of iced decaf coffee with non-dairy milk. I guess it's because many people are not like me. They're not crazy like me, who actually want this specific, very specific request. And y'all, people have made so much fun of me over the past years with my love of decaf coffee, and they've made fun of me for my love of iced coffee in 30-degree weather. But Y'all, unless these people have a sweet tooth that they're trying to cut, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and overactive bladder, then I say, judge not, lest thou be judged, bitches. So y'all, as pandemic rules got less rigid, so did my rules with coffee. And when I started working on set again, I realized it was going to be really hard to wrestle up an iced decaf coffee. And it's really hard to wrestle up a quick check unless you're in various areas of Jersey, specifically South Jersey. So I started switching to just getting an iced coffee on set, regular coffee, like caffeinated coffee. And I was telling myself, it's okay, it's cool, I can do this. This is fine. It's not going to cause any problems. And I'm saving myself like $5 a pop at Starbucks. But Lord, it was not saving my anxiety. So y'all, again, this analogy of it's like when the good guhl is dating the bad boy and over again. And she finally realizes she's had enough of the abuse and enough of the sweaty old Van Halen t-shirts and the bad guitar riffs at 2 a.m. I recently, as in like the past couple of weeks recently, realized I had enough of coffee because I realized that my anxiety was through the roof, as we would say, with a Cajun accent. And if I want to talk a good game about clean eating for health benefits, then decaf coffee, like let's face the facts, decaf coffee is actually worse for you than coffee because essentially it's chemicals, right? There's so many chemicals involved. And I had COVID for the week of Christmas this past year. Fun, but actually eye-opening because if there's one thing that makes me not want coffee, it's when I'm sick. And I noticed the week of COVID and the week after I had no coffee. And despite a lot of stuff going on in my life personally, my anxiety, like those feelings in my body were better. I didn't feel racy. I didn't have racing thoughts. I didn't have a racing heart. I didn't feel like my TMJ was churning my teeth and my tongue into like a Sanka factory, which sidebar, I've never done Sanka. I have my standards, y'all. But the other day, I recently did an experiment. I was at work on set and I was thinking of this podcast and I was like, let me do an experiment for my fellow listener peoples. And I really so badly wanted an iced coffee. And I went to the crafty truck and I asked for a splash of iced coffee with a lot of oat milk. And they really don't understand the concept of coffee milk like my mama did. So it was more like part coffee, part oat milk. And I drank it down like the fiend I am. And y'all, I got so sick. I can feel the sickness right now. Like sick in the head, sick like this acidity in the back of my throat, headache, stomach ache. And later that night, like I couldn't sleep. My anxiety was in full effect. I had the coffee at 12 p.m. and I just couldn't sleep. It was like 10, 11 p.m. and I was still so racy. And since I had that regular iced coffee, caffeinated iced coffee, I have had I have to admit, a couple of Starbucks decaf over the past couple of days. And you know what? I'm realizing it's over. The relationship is over. I'm not feeling it anymore. It could be like a fling. I'm telling myself with me and coffee, it could be like a fling here and there. But I'm not in it to win it with coffee for the long term anymore. I am setting up boundaries with coffee. People have suggested to me to try green tea to kick the habit. And I have done green tea. Green tea has less caffeine and also has L-theanine, which has a calming effect. So I guess green tea is like an upper and a downer, whereas coffee is just an upper. But for me, green tea makes me racy. Like some people, and myself included, are very, very much affected by caffeine. And I'm fine right now just doing like different herbal tea concoctions because while I will always love and miss the smell and taste of coffee, the freedom of not having like the physical and mental symptoms of anxiety, taste and smells so much better, y'all. So now when I place my order for my morning drink, not coffee. It sounds more like, can I have a hibiscus raspberry tea, double the tea bags? Or can I have a Celestial Seasonings Bengal spice tea? Or can I have a Trader Joe's pumpkin spice rooibos tea? Or insert any herbal tea here other than chamomile, because that's for nighttime and for some reason that one messes with my allergies. Or when I'm feeling fancy, a peppermint tea with a splash of Califia Farms milk chocolate non-dairy creamer. While almost all of the world needs coffee to function, while most of us tell ourselves we cannot function without coffee, I've realized coffee just, it can't be for me. Like cigarettes, it's a chemical. It's an addiction that I just don't need. And until I give it up, Rick Astley, then live without it. Then put it back in to test the waters, and like a sort of form of just self-torture. I don't know if we caught that when I was singing Rick Astley. As we know, Rick Astley, like Never Gonna Give You Up, is my theme song. So when I put coffee back in, or anything that I've given up that I feel is affecting me badly, when I put it back in to test the waters, like some form of messed up self-torture, I realize then how not good it is for me, how bad it is for me, shall I say. Like if I were to ever have a cigarette again after quitting, yuck, no way. No way. So I may encourage all of us, friends, if we're feeling too reliant on coffee or a substance, to try to slowly cut back. I don't recommend doing anything cold turkey, and just take a break. Be mindful. Sit through that pain of giving up that substance and see what we may be experiencing physically or mentally or both. See if it's directly related to that one simple habit that seems so simple, but it's really complicating and controlling your life. Now, y'all, I gotta at least go give my little Cafe du Monde tins a hug and remember that nostalgia, because being from Louisiana, coffee is one of like the top 5 things, that I always bring up for gifts for people. But for now, I'm going to give myself the gift of no coffee. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Fat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.